If you're an author who's been running ads on your books, but you're ready to scale those ads to level up and to be more strategic about how you're doing this to be more profitable, today we are talking to Bryan Cohen. He has worked with over 30,000 authors to teach them how to scale those ads to make more money and be more profitable in the author space. He is bringing so many good tips and tricks today, so let's jump in.
I'm Bryan Cohen, CEO of Best Page Forward. We help authors to scale up their royalties.
And Bryan, I'm really excited that you're here today because you are doing really great out on social media. You've been helping authors for a really long time when it comes to their ads. And today I want to talk a little bit about how authors can be more strategic about their book ads. So for authors who are already running ads, maybe doing hit and miss ads, maybe they're putting some time and effort and money behind their ads, how can we strategically be better at that? So in your experience, you've worked with a lot of authors. What is the first thing that authors looking to scale should be paying attention to?
I think authors need to get a little more organized. They're running ads to everything, every book, every series. But when it comes down to it, one of those series or one of those books might be 2 or 3 times more profitable than the rest of the books they're running ads to. They separate them out into nice little portfolios for each series. Then they check the royalties on one side, the spend on the other side. What is actually the most profitable? Old Pareto principle, 80% of their effort should be put into the 20% getting the most results. And that is going to make a huge difference.
So when it comes to those ads, if we're looking at one specific set of ads for one series or one book, we should be spending the majority of our time and money on that. Do you feel like we should still be paying attention to some of those other ads a little bit? Or do you feel like we should kind of just let it go and focus on the moneymaker for the time and then bring the others back in?
Let's say you're an author who is already in pretty good shape. You can pay a little bit of attention to the things that are going okay. But if you're an author you're not where you want to be, you need to really pay attention to that data, because it's possible your next 3 books that you're writing are actually in the series that aren't performing as well. And you need to really put your eggs into one basket in the beginning when you're trying to make that first big leap. And so I would really put, if you're an author who's already doing pretty well, 80% of your focus on that series that's doing well, if with the ads and with the writing, the production calendar. And if you are an author who is not doing where you want to be, 95 to 100% into the series that is doing well, because you need to really, really focus on what is actually profitable.
Do you feel like when people are writing their novels, if they are finding something that is becoming more profitable for them, that they should then expand an existing series, or should they just kind of leave it to the trilogy or the however many books and then focus on something similar to it to build up with their ads?
Well, I think there's a couple of different ways you can go. Usually, most of the authors I run into, it's probably similar, Cam, with most of the authors that you run into. They're nowhere close to their goals. And so they have a lot, they have a far way to go. But if they take what has worked for their previous series, maybe in their genre that they write in, and then they take all those learnings, take everything they learned from videos like these and put them into a new series that is in a similar genre, maybe includes a similar character, but maybe it's totally brand new, but it just uses what they've learned about tropes and what they've learned about ads and what they've learned about marketing. And then they're able to make that work a lot better with a newer series.
That makes a lot of sense. And you mentioned when we are analyzing our data that we really should break it down into different folders, into different sections, so that we can get a really good, strong look at what is working and what maybe is not as profitable and what, of course, is not working at all. So when it comes to those analytics, what specific things should we be looking for? Because for some authors, it might be that they're making tons of sales and this is very clearly the moneymaker. Whereas with some people, they could be looking at it and say, well, this one's a little bit more profitable than this one. How are they supposed to know with those analytics?
Well, I think some of it depends on how many dollars and cents we're dealing with. If something is by far and away way more profitable, way more royalties, it is okay to ignore some of the other things. But if it is kind of a 50-50 shot, I recommend going to the joy. I know plenty of authors who are struggling because they have gotten deep into writing a series or a genre that they aren't actually passionate about. So if it goes between, oh, this one and this one are neck and neck, go with the one that you would love to roll out of bed and write every single day. And when you are looking at that data, I like to keep it simple. There are so many stats. There's click-through rate. There's all these things, advertising cost to sale. Ignore most of that. Look at royalties over on your dashboard on KDP. Look at ad spend over at your dashboard on the ad dashboard. Compare the two of those to each other, because there are so many stats that do not matter in the long run, in the big picture. Maybe when you're trying to scale up in a big way, they do. But when you're trying to make that assessment of what to focus on the dollars in and the dollars out.
Okay, let's dial in on that, because dollars in and dollars out can be really confusing for a lot of people.
Right.
So you've helped people to scale their ads. You've helped authors get hundreds of thousands per month. You've helped people to get more than that per month. So when it comes to proportionally how much money we should be spending on the ads versus what is a good qualification for getting back, what are we looking at numbers wise?
I'm really glad you brought this up, because a lot of people will say, oh, I want my launch to go big, so I better put 10 grand into my launch because then I'm going to make 20 grand. But it is not a gamble. You need to use the past data. We need to go slowly but surely. None of my clients who have hit $100,000 a month or even $1 million a month, they did this. They did not do this overnight. This was very much, hey, I spent 500 and I made 1,000. Well, great. Why don't you try to spend 1,000 to see if you make 2,000? It was never like, great, you made $500 in profit. Now let's do 10 times the spend. So you have to go slowly but surely. And a lot of the times with the Amazon ads, we are able to see those results pretty clearly if we're looking at the month of August versus the month of August as far as royalties and ad spend. And so you want to look at the actual data for the last couple of weeks, for the last month. If you're making 10% profit, you're probably not going to want to dump a lot of money into it. If you're making more like 100%, 200%, 300% profit, you still want to take it relatively slow, but at least you can do so with more confidence.
Okay, I really want to talk about this, because oftentimes, especially when people are doing their launches, they just want to put all of that money in there and focus all of their time and attention on their launches, and they don't think of the long plan or the fact that it is a slow build. So when it comes to this, what should we be considering? What should we be thinking of specifically in terms of increments of how we are increasing our ad spend to then get that profit back? Are we talking like 1%, 10%, 50%? What should we be in the beginning considering?
I think we have to keep in mind that almost every author who has had a giant launch, they did not find their biggest success prior to that from a launch. They found their biggest success from a book that they put out. It did well, but then they marketed it either through ads or social media or what have you, and then it took off. It did not take off because of the launch. Then we see them going around throwing this big money and, signed copy boxes and sending them to people. And we're like, that must be how they made it big. They did not make it big. Most authors who have their first big success do so in a more of an evergreen way that's in between launches. And so let's keep that in mind first. And so we don't have to pour big money into launches. If we haven't had a big evergreen success, it doesn't make sense to pour big money into a launch. And so when we're looking at percentages of, oh, well, how much of my royalties should I put into this? I think we kind of need to evaluate this in real time. We look at, did we spend $5 and make 10? Okay, great. Let's up it to 10. Did we spend 10 and make 20? Great. Did we spend 20 and make 40? Because if at some point we spend 40 and make 40, then we're like, okay, let's see what's going on here. This isn't scaling. But we look at it slowly but surely. We add increments to it. One of the nice things about Amazon ads is unless you bid super high, which I don't recommend, it goes pretty slowly. And so we can go slowly but surely. I would say if you're at 50% or more profit as you're scaling this up and it continues to maintain, keep throwing money into it. But if you're below that, take it slow, realize, hey, this wasn't your big win yet. And that's okay, because we're still learning and we're still growing. Most authors have more success on their 4th series or their 5th series or their 6th series, not right off the bat. And so if you're below that 50% profit, then consider that your next big win is probably going to come from a new series at some point down the line, not necessarily from this one. Michelle Pennington from the Writing Gals once told me she taught a class called Breaking Up with Your Book. I think sometimes you need to break up with your book because it's not necessarily going to be the big success for you.
That makes a lot of sense. And so I want to talk a little bit about when our ads are not performing, because we've talked a bit about how to increase them and how to intensify them and making sure we're going over those analytics. But when we find something that's just not working, what are those steps that we take? Do we kill the ad? Do we tweak the ad? Do we set up new ads? What should we be doing from the perspective of looking to scale and looking to be profitable to make sure we're not wasting our time or our money on things that are not working?
Ads reveal a book, which means that if you make tweaks, change ads, try different keywords, do new things, get a new cover, get a new blurb, get a new whatever, it's only going to increase the sales of that book 20 to 30% maximum. If you've made $5 on that book in a month, 20 to 30% increase is not going to be a significant improvement for you. So you can make tweaks all the live long day, and that's going to be good learning for you. That's going to help you get educated on the platform, get a better understanding of how to find things. But most often, and I feel bad saying this, most often the next best thing is to research the next genre you're going to write in, or research your own genre better so that you can do that better the next time, and start working on the next book and make sure it is 20 to 30% closer to what readers are expecting, because nothing is going to increase your bottom line like taking care of readers and getting them more excited about the next book. No ad tweak, no $9,000 course you're going to buy. None of those things is going to increase your royalties like it will you growing as a writer and making sure that you're taking care of those readers.
I love that. So when it comes to running ads on our books, on average, how many of these ads should we be running? Should we do just one really good, strong one? Should we do 2 or 3 that are pretty good or really strong? Or do we need to just blanket everything, see what works, and then run with those?
I'm somewhere in between the blanketing and the step before that. I do think that when you bid low, which is what we always recommend at first, and we've seen, I mean, you've seen ads, you know ads pretty well, KM, seeing that, hey, sometimes people need to spend $1 per click, and sometimes people need to spend even more depending on the platform. I have seen people get 1,000 clicks at 30 cents a click. And so you can bid low. But the issue is when these authors are really trying to blanket, trying to get more people to find out about their books, they need to keep in mind that a lot of ads don't necessarily start right away. So you can't get away with 1, you can't get away with 2. This is not Facebook. Facebook, you put an ad out, it'll spend your money right away. BookBub ads, it'll spend your money right away. Amazon ads, you sometimes need to create an auto ad where Amazon does the targeting for you, a category ad or 3 that try to target the entire genre, and then some keyword ads that have book titles, author names, search terms that readers tend to look for when looking in that genre. And we recommend continuing to look for search terms, continuing to look for book titles, and trying to create several ads per week. Keep feeding the beast. And so we always recommend you search out the most relevant keywords, but you need to keep feeding the beast a little bit, because Amazon likes it when you feed it those yummy, yummy ads, and it is able to send more traffic to your books as a result. So it's not necessarily blanketing, because you don't want to target every single thing under the sun, but you do want to keep feeding it with more ads over time. We have sometimes found that 3 out of 4 ads won't even necessarily get a lot of impressions when people see your ads, or clicks when people actually interact with your ads. And so you need to kind of keep creating, because 1 or 2 usually isn't going to do it.
How long should we be paying attention to these ads before we decide it's not working?
I think it needs to take months. I think we need to get out of the, immediate expectations of things. Amazon, in a way, is a very like 90s, 2000s ad where we need to take our time, almost like a mailer, and you're waiting for people to like get their mail and read it. That's kind of how slow Amazon ads are. And I've worked with them. They don't like me saying that it's slow, but it's absolutely slow. They're like, takes its time. It certainly does. And so you need to give it weeks. You need to give it a month. We're big fans of the 100-click rule. You wait till you get 100 clicks on all the ads that are for that one book. You see how many clicks you got. Then you go over and look over at Kindle Direct Publishing if you're self-published, and you see how many sales or how many people read your book on Kindle Unlimited cover to cover. Total that all up. See how the conversion rate was, how many clicks it took to get a sale. Then assess. People who are assessing after 5 hours or 5 days are missing the point.
That makes a lot of sense. And making sure that we are spending the time to give it that leeway to get that information is so incredibly important. So for people who are established in the ad space, they are running things, now they're looking to scale, they're looking to improve and tweak and make things just a little bit better for themselves, and they are in multiple locations running these ads. In your opinion, which one should they be focused on first for looking to enhance what they're doing and to scale before they build out to the rest?
Great question. So I think you have to really look at facts over feelings here. We often have this feeling. This is an interesting thing. I've worked with people who started on TikTok and then went to Amazon ads, started on Facebook ads, then went to Amazon ads, etc. The first thing they started with, they are going to feel like that's working the best. Always, every single time, even if it's false. And so they are sometimes going to need to test different iterations. What if I scale back this first thing by 50% while I'm testing this second thing? Because we need to collect that data. Sometimes I've seen authors, especially with Facebook ads, they're convinced their Facebook ads are doing incredibly well. And then we test, well, let's drop it back 80% for this launch and focus on the Amazon ads. And they see, oh, wow, I must have been getting a lot of organic sales because it wasn't the Facebook ads. And so that could be different for each iteration. But I think we have to really look at the numbers. When we saw a spike, like we spent a little more that day, did we see a corresponding spike in royalties? And we need to really get granular here, which is not one of my strengths. I'm a big picture guy, but looking at the individual days, looking at the individual spikes is going to be really, really helpful. We may need to, and I don't recommend this at first, but we may need to at some point say, well, let's take this other advertising method all the way down so that we can get a better test. I don't recommend that at first. I don't think people should turn off their old ads or stop a certain advertising platform cold turkey, because that's not good for the algorithms. But you definitely need to start looking at it, facts over feelings, so that you can get a better sense of what is actually bringing in the royalties.
I love that. And in terms of action steps, for people who are looking to change their ads and do a little bit better with this, how much time per day or per week do you recommend people who are just jumping into leveling up spend? And what is the best way, in your opinion, for them to then gather that information and analyze it all in one place?
Well, I think a lot of this is a personal situation. I think some people do a really good job of just like, I need to take my 20 minutes a day and I'm going to do it. Some people are big burst people. I'm a big burst person. You need to do the Cal Newport style deep work and really get that session in once per week, but a 2-hour session. I would say though, at the beginning, try to get at least 1 to 2 hours of time on your week, whether it's split across days or whether it's one big burst. Some people are really good at just keeping accountable with themselves for this. I'm not. I need to either make it public. When I started learning ads, I did a public podcast to share my results over time. I was posting about it on social media. That was really helpful for me. Some of you might need an accountability buddy, someone else who is also going through the same thing, and you can check on each other and have Zoom meetings. You can make it more mastermind style. Know yourself, because you are not likely to do this if you're going against your habits, if you're going against your personality, you're going against your strengths. But if you can work with your strengths and with your personality, you're more likely to take regular action on it.
Oh, I love that. So many good nuggets in today's conversation. And for those of you who are interested in learning more, you can always reach out to Bryan on social media, on his website, and with his coaching. So, Bryan, where can everybody find you?
You can find us at bestpageforward.net, but you can definitely find me at all of the socials. Usually I'm either Bryan Cohen or Bryan Cohen Blurbs. Hit me up. Feel free to send me a DM, and happy to have a conversation with you.
Drop your questions down below on how to create and how to scale those ads so that you can be more profitable. And if you've got some good tips and tricks, we'd love to hear from you in our comment community as well. Bryan is coming back for upcoming episodes. We've got some really good things that we just filmed that are going to come out in the next couple of days you do not want to miss. If you want to learn from some of the biggest players in this industry who are the most profitable, we're talking about $100,000 months, $1 million months, not years, months. So come back for all the good, juicy details in our upcoming episodes. Hit that subscribe and notification bell, and we'll see you in tomorrow's daily episode, helping you navigate the world of publishing, from your writing to your publishing to your marketing, to make this your most profitable year ever with the least amount of stress and overwhelm.